Hello and welcome to the Macoskey Center. My name is Jacob. I am a sustainability education intern here at the Macoskey Center, and I'm going to give you a tour about our facilities here and what we do to help prevent the effects of climate change and what we do as an example homestead here. So the Macoskey Center, like I said, is an example homestead. So we show what sustainability living would look like in like a home, a farm, stuff like that. So we have compostable toilets, and we have our geothermal heating and cooling system here at the Macoskey Center. So if you see our pipes over there, we have pipes that lead 500 feet into the ground. They were installed in 2009 deep for modern heating and cooling systems. So what the geothermal heating and cooling system does is 500 feet in the ground at this point on Earth is around 52 degrees. So we pump air down there, it cools it down or heats it up, and then we pump it back up, and so it's always around like 52, 53 degrees here at the Macoskey Center. And we also, that's nice for hot days where we want it to be cool inside, but during the winter days when we want it a little warmer, we have some other like architectural heating measures. Like we have our southern facing windows, and our floors absorb a lot of the heat from the sun, so that helps heat up the room during the winter time. And we also have our wood burning stove. Wood burns a lot cleaner than coal or gasoline does, and so we're able to produce, our output is a lot more cleaner than fossil fuels. So we also have, do you want to see the composting toilets?
Yes, let's take a look at those.
So our composting toilets here at the Macoskey Center, instead of a normal toilet, it just goes straight down and it goes into the basement, and we have a chamber where it decomposes. So when you go at the Macoskey Center, you just do your business, wipe, and then you put a scoop of sawdust down the chute, and we have isopods, roly-polies, and millipedes down there who decompose the human waste. So it's a lot more energy. It wastes a lot less energy than a traditional toilet, because when a single person flushes a toilet, that wastes 1.5 gallons of water, and in a 4 to 5 person household, you're wasting a lot of water. This uses no water, and your waste gets decomposed, sort of like a composter. So, yeah.
Alright.
So here next to our chicken coop at the Macoskey Center, we have our solar panels. Our solar panels help us gain energy from the sun to help power the house. We're not 100% off-grid, but a lot of our energy does come from the solar panels, like our hoop house that we'll talk about later. The fan in there is run by the solar panel. And our solar panels here are a grid system. As you can see, they're kind of split up into this grid. And the reason that they're like this is because if one of these grids is damaged, we do have some that have cracks, but if one grid is damaged, that doesn't affect the whole other panel. The rest of the grids can still be collecting energy from the sun. So if one grid's broken, we don't have to replace the whole panel. And we use our solar panels also to help power our electric fence for our gardens, for both our learning garden and our community garden. That helps keep deer away, so that we don't have to use toxic measures like pesticides and other animal deterrents that would harm the environment, because we want to live in harmony with our wildlife friends here, and we don't want to be poisoning them or our plants. So this right here is our hoop house, not to be confused with our greenhouse, though it is just as warm in there. In here, Dr. Maltman has a project going on where they are testing the effects of microplastic decomposing bacteria in our soil, because scientists have discovered a bacteria that can decompose plastics, but what Dr. Maltman wants to figure out is what that then does to the soil. Is it introducing microplastics into our soil and into the greater food chain, or are they completely breaking down? Because we really don't want tiny microplastic pollutants in our food sources. We're already ingesting like a credit card's worth of microplastics a week, I believe. in our normal diet, so we don't want to introduce that into our soil. In the hoop house, it is very stinky because it is composting, but it is also very warm. And so we have our fans in here that are powered from our solar panels. We also keep our apiary. Sorry, I'm just coming over here. Dr. Amber Eade also uses this area to store their beekeeping suits because we do have apiaries at the Macoskey Center. And the goal is to perform a study on our bees to determine whether or not bees can tell whether or not a flower has had pesticides applied to it and whether they prefer plants with or without pesticides. Although we haven't quite come up with a method to tell if the bees can tell, so right now we're just in the learning how to beekeep phase. So this area next to our community garden is kind of growing up wild, and that is because we don't want to mow it to provide habitat for our local smaller wildlife. So our insects, our amphibians, our small mammals like chipmunks, and even birds and pollinators are provided nutrients by our wildflowers growing here. Because just flat mowing an area is not very healthy for the ecosystem. Grass lawns are incredibly harmful to the ecosystem because we're not only just clear cutting everything and removing that habitat for all of our small animals and killing the native plants, but we're also importing non-native grass species like Bermuda grass in order to plant in our lawns because they look nicer. And so a lot of lawns are creating wildlife pockets, or having like a grass or a clover lawn with native plant species is also a better solution. And a lot of places just stop mowing their lawns in general in order to create wildlife pockets like these.
And I would imagine this is better too when it rains for absorbing runoff.
Yeah, grass lawns kind of flood. You'll see in a soccer field it's going to flood, but these, the plants kind of soak up more water. You're allowed more like variation in the terrain, and that kind of stops flooding. That's also why wetlands are very important, because wetlands help stop flooding by acting as like a pool for the water to go into so that it doesn't flood the nearby town. Wetlands also are very good for absorbing pollutants that come with runoff rain, and so that's why wetlands are one of our most important habitats in North America. And in the world in general, I'd say. So here over by our barn, we have another one of our water-saving techniques here at the Macoskey Center. We have our rain barrel. So this is what we use to water a lot of our garden spaces. The water is collected up in the gutters from the barn, sent down here into our rain barrel, and we can use that instead of having to pump water from like a water pipe. And we're able to use this as a more eco-friendly way to water our gardens. And next to it, we also have our composters. So we have several different stages of composter. We have just like the raw materials that we just have thrown in. And so right now, the bugs and all the bacteria are breaking down our food scraps, our paper, cardboard, stuff that we can't recycle but we can compost. And then in this stage, it's the cooking stage where it's not quite broken down, but it's getting there. And then finally, we have our black gold stage where it is ready to be used. And composting is wonderful to use in gardens and for potted plants. Composting provides that nutrients back into the earth for the plants to use. So that is one way that we can avoid using fertilizers, which a lot of the times will also come with pesticides and can harm our animals and our native plants. So we don't want to use any sort of pesticide or fertilizer on the Macoskey Center property. And so here we have our learning garden here at the Macoskey Center. So we have a variety of different plants growing in here. We have nasturtium, we have our beans, our corn, and our squash, which actually form a gardening technique called the Three Sisters because those plants grow so well together. The beans provide nitrogen to the soil, the corn provides a stalk for the beans to grow on, and then the squash actually provides shade for the soil so that the sun doesn't evaporate all the water and the soil can stay nice and moist for the other plants. We also, here at the Macoskey Center, we don't use any pesticides, so we have other types of gardening techniques. One of them is companion planting. So not only can you plant plants together because they help each other grow, but with our nasturtium over here, and we also have spearmint that serves the same purpose, we'll plant the spearmint or nasturtium around the plant that we want. And so when bugs come into the garden bed, they eat the nasturtium or the mint first, and both of those plants have a real bitter, spicy kind of taste. And so when the bug eats it, it goes, oh, this is gross, I'm gonna leave, go find food somewhere else. And they don't get to the main plant that we don't want them to eat. And both nasturtium and spearmint are delicious on their own, so double purpose. We also use our electric fence powered by our solar panel, like I said before, that helps keep the deer out, because deer can jump like 8 feet, so no fence is gonna keep them out unless it's electrified. So one of the goals for our learning garden is to show how more sustainable growing your own fruits and vegetables is than buying them from a store, because when you buy a fruit or vegetable or any type of produce from a store, that produce is traveling thousands if not millions of miles to get to your location. A banana is going to be grown somewhere in Central and South America. Think about all the fossil fuels that banana is burning just to get to you. So we want to provide an example for what and how people can grow their own produce so that it's not wasting all that fossil fuels and energy traveling to you. Plus, it's a lot healthier and organic. We can't technically say organic because you need a special permit for that, but all of our food here is pesticide and fertilizer free, and like a lot of mass-grown produce has a lot of pesticides which run off and pollute our waterways and other environments, and so that is just a more sustainable and healthy, both for you and the ecosystem, way of gaining produce.
Little pumpkin. We have
So now we are here at our chicken coop at the Macoskey Center. This is one of my favorite locations at the center. Our chickens here provide an example of what sustainable livestock keeping would look like. A lot of the times when you get meat or eggs or dairy products, that comes from a factory farm, and so they're mass producing their products, which not only is not good for the animals, but also is awful for the environment. Cows are one of the top producers of carbon dioxide into the environment. Through their farts, they release a lot of methane. So when you're keeping like a bunch of cows in a small space, you're producing a lot of concentrated methane. Livestock industries also tend to clear cut a lot of areas in order to produce grazing pastures for their livestock, so that's kind of like a double hit where you're not only producing more carbon dioxide, but you're removing the trees that remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And here we provide an example of what a sustainable livestock keeping would look like. So our chickens have lots of space to run around. We don't keep more than 20 in here because if you keep chickens in a large space, or not in a large space, if you keep a large group of chickens together with not enough space, they can fight. So not only are you producing more carbon dioxide, but you're also not really treating your chickens that well. And here our chickens have plenty of space to forage around. We like to keep some plants in here for them to not only forage around in, but it also provides them shelter from predators like hawks. And that's another thing. Hey, Merlda. No, not really. Our coop was made from a sustainable method of cob. So it is clay mixed with straw. And cob structures have been used by humans for thousands of years, and some of the oldest structures still around today are cob structures. And so this is a sustainable building method, and it is pretty predator proof. To my knowledge, we have not had an incident where a fox or a raccoon has taken one of our chickens. The only predators that we do have are hawks, but that's kind of unavoidable when you have an open area for your chickens to run around in. Though we do provide them shelter to hide in, so that does reduce hawk predation. Thank you so much for coming along with me for a tour of the Macoskey Center. I hope you guys stop by, say hello to the chickens, check out our community garden. You could also see us at Boozle, where we have our farm stand, if you want to come. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you.
Yeah. Say bye, Esmeralda.